So finally, I've got two revisions here for how you might rearrange this speech. Because once again, I think it's got so much good stuff in it, but I would like to focus a little bit the arrangement. So in this first revision, I would have, let me take out his original here, I would have his opening more or less the same, trim down his opening a little bit, and then, you know how I mentioned he has this part on pollination, breaking apart this part on urban living, try to build that in. So maybe make an entire point about beekeeping and urban agriculture. Preview it in that way, walk into the point in that way, and then jump over to pollination, talking about, well, currently we hide our bees, but urban living in the future will need bees. So you're kind of trying to consolidate those key ideas together. Then talk a little bit about why cities are good for bees. This is similar to what he had. I'm combining a couple of things here. Bees thrive in cities, they survive better, they produce more, die-offs may not occur. There are a couple of reasons for this, and then maybe take that section on the varroa mite and try to get it in here. That could probably be a standalone point, but I like it, tucked away in a clump, in a chunk. So I would do that, and then pretty much keep his point the same about what he does in terms of his research, and then maybe try to provide a little bit more organization and order to his images of urban beekeeping. So I would probably bump up that beekeeping was illegal in New York City, because it's sort of saying it's one of the only ones where you're making a point about the past. So it makes sense to me that would come first rather than in the middle of those. So beekeeping was illegal. As we move forward, the key thing is integration. We've integrated stuff here in Boston. They've integrated stuff in Paris and in London. Classrooms can use this, and then maybe end on that red honey example, because it does so much. It does so much in terms of explaining what urban beekeeping does for that locale. And then the conclusion, I would say, is pretty much the same. So that's one option. So I drafted that up, and then I went out and looked at it, and I thought, well, there's maybe another way to do this as well. So once again, you see here, the opening is pretty much the same. Then I've sort of trimmed a little bit that beekeeping and urban agriculture point. Pollination is essential to food growth, urban living, and eating. In the future, we'll need bees, and despite our clear need for bees, they're dying out due to the varroa mite. So here, we've already introduced the threat very early on, and it feels like the varroa mite discussion makes sense in that sort of opening gambit. Then you can talk about, well, cities can protect bees. So then my next 2 points, as I've drafted them up, are kind of in response to that 1C. Despite our need for bees, they're dying out. So what can we do? Well, cities can help protect bees, and we can help protect bees. Cities can protect bees, and we can immunize them. So cities protect bees. Why? They thrive in cities. Same points there. And there are possible reasons for this. We've got the discussion of temperature and trains. Then moving on to we can immunize bees, and then that becomes his point about his research and what he does. And then moving on to the final point, which would be cities are important bee habitats. So here I've taken those snapshots and once again tried a different order to them. So we must overcome negative preconceptions. So again, starting with that beekeeping was illegal in New York City. And then having two ideas. So cities are important to bee habits. We must overcome negative preconceptions about bees, like when it was illegal in New York City. And we should work to integrate bees into the urban landscape. Okay, so all those examples of urban landscaping and urban design. And we should integrate bees into our educational system, Classroom Hives Project and all the same. And then the conclusion would be the same as well. So those are two different ways of trying to organize that. So if I was talking through it, if someone was flowing it, it has a clear organizational pattern. Because as it stands, I think there's so much good discussion in this. I just wish that as a listener, I had more of a sense of where the speech was going and why it was organized and the way it was.